Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special episode of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and Matt Ramage is with me today as we have a very special guest who would be of interest to our listeners on both sides of the pond. We have Peter Ramage, who currently coaches for Phoenix Rising here in Phoenix, but also played for Newcastle, Queen's Park Rangers, Crystal Palace, Barnsley, just to name a few over on that side of the pond. So we're going to talk to Peter about all of that today. Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Phil, Matt. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, this is really cool for us. We obviously got to watch you when you were playing here. And then now that you've stepped into a coaching role here at Phoenix Rising, it's been cool to see you kind of take that step. So I'm excited to talk with you, man, especially just your playing career as a whole. Again, as Phil mentioned, pretty extensive, kind of not just in England, but as we'll touch on, a little short stint in India, I believe.
Yes,
and then I think a couple of us are too, once we get there, definitely interested on how you even found your way over to the desert. So Phil, why don't you kick us off, man?
Yeah, well, the first question we have is, so you were born in Whitley Bay, which is north of Newcastle. I understand. I looked it up. I see it's about as far north as you can go without actually being in Scotland. And then you played for the Newcastle Academy, and then it was from 2004 to 2008. That you played with them in the Premier League. You started a total of 43 games between the 2005, 2006, and 2006-2007 season. And I believe that was about ages 20 through 24 for you, that you were playing there for Newcastle. So what was it like to get kind of thrown right into the first tier that early on in your career?
It wasn't really early on, if I'm brutally honest. If you're back home in England, it's a little bit different to over here. You start your professional career after kind of college over here around about them ages. But, I went into the academy system when I was 10-year-old. I'm actually from a little bit further north than Whitley Bay. That's something that was kind of written without me. I was born in Ashton.
Oh, okay.
It's just a little bit. I used to live in Whitley Bay. I moved from a little town called Berwick-upon-Tweed, which literally is as far north as you can get in England. You're almost a stone's throw away from Scotland. So I grew up in Berwick and then moved to Whitley Bay when I was about 12, 13-year-old. But coming through the system, I was always, I was never earmarked from a first team point of view, but I was always making my way through. I was always training with the first team from a young age, from about 18-year-old, but had a few opportunities to go on loan to make like my professional debut. But because I was kind of doing so well within the system and I was always in around Newcastle, I kind of made my debut a little bit later than I really wanted to. I think it was 2021 when I made my debut. And, most people in England are making debuts maybe when they're 17, 18, 19-year-old. So I was somewhat of a late developer in that respect. But to wait and then finally make my debut for the team that I've supported since I was born was, a dream come true for me. I was a Newcastle fan growing up. Like I said, I used to go to the games ever since year dot. So to make that final move from youth team into reserves and then into first team was something special.
Yeah, that's got to be something to be able to put on that shirt that's the shirt that you wore growing up. And, definitely, like you said, I think that what we see a lot of times is, like you said, guys might go out on loan and play for a League One club for a year or two. And that was kind of what I noticed is that you just kind of went straight from the academy to the first team and didn't go out on loan or anything like that, like you mentioned.
Yeah, Bobby Robson was the manager. The late, great Sir Bobby Robson was the manager when I was coming through, and he took a keen eye to me. He always had me involved, like I said, in training. Where we trained with the reserves, there was one pitch was the reserves and the next pitch was the first team. So I was always, flip-flopping between the two, predominantly playing the games or mainly playing the games with the reserves. But, maybe Monday to Friday I was training with the first team. So I was always in and around and made the bench a couple of times when I was younger, but didn't actually have to get onto the pitch until like I said, it was 2004 and 5 season when Sir Bobby left and Graham Souness took over. So he again seen something in me and made my debut against Olympiacos in the UEFA Cup. Got the last 25 minutes of that game, and then I had to wait a couple of months later, I think it was, and made my Premier League debut down at the Theatre of Dreams against Man United, which it was only told kind of the day before that I was going to make my debut, and you think you're going to make it, at home against somebody, but away to the champions at the time, and some of the world's best players playing for the Man United team. It was a moment that I'll never forget, and one I just enjoyed every single minute of.
Peter, what was it like, man, walking out of the tunnel at Old Trafford? First start in the Premier League. And I mean, it's such an iconic place. What was that atmosphere just like?
It was surreal. I mean, I played at Old Trafford a couple of times before for the reserves, and it was empty. There was 70,000 seats looking at you. Now you had 70-odd thousand faces screaming at you, which is, a hell of a lot different and a hell of a lot more intimidating. But the great thing about that game in some respects is that we were on a kind of a hiding to nothing. We had a lot of injuries at that particular time, which was why I was playing, why I got my chance. But Alan Shearer, Shea Given, who were the senior players, Steve Harper at the time, kind of the night before, Graham Souness pulled me and told me, and then Al, Shea and Harps in particular, they just kind of took me to one side on the Sunday morning of the walk and just told me to relax and enjoy it. I mean, if I made a mistake and we got beat 5-6-0, then who cares? Because we were expected to get beat 5-6-0. So, we're playing against some of the world's best, like I said. So that calmed me down. And I was more excited than anything. But then when it really sank in was when you do the lineups before the games and they're all walking past, shaking your hands one by one. I'm getting Giggs walking past me, Gabriel Einstein walking past me, Rooney walking past me, Rio Ferdinand. And I'm just thinking, geez, I'm here. I've made it. And that was probably the moment when I thought, wow, yeah, this is the Premier League. And I went on to enjoy the game, and we almost got a result out of it as well.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, that just has to be, like Matt said, to be in such an iconic place as Old Trafford. And like you said, just seeing guys that you've been watching on TV probably a couple of weeks earlier, and now you're shaking hands with them. That's just got to be surreal. We definitely want to get to your Phoenix Rising time, because I know that's what a lot of our listeners are interested in. So we're kind of going to skip over a little bit. You had some great seasons at QPR, but the season in England that I really wanted to talk to you about the most was 2012-13 with Crystal Palace. It just seems, when I was looking through your career, that was a season that jumped out to me. It was your career high in matches started. You had 39 matches started. You played 3,400 minutes. You even put in your career high in goals with 4 goals that season. Crystal Palace, you finished 5th in the championship that season. But then what was really interesting is you went on and ended up beating Watford in a playoff final. That was a promotion season. So just kind of tell us about that season from start to finish, because that's just some incredible stuff that had to be an experience in itself.
Yeah, well, the start of it was somewhat uncertain. I'd just come off the back of a season playing on loan at first half of the previous season. I was a loan at Crystal Palace. The second half of the season, I was at loan at Birmingham. We managed to get to the playoffs with Birmingham. We got beaten in the semi-final. So I went into that summer a free agent. I had my contract had ran out. I was contracted to QPR at the time, but my contract had ran out. Birmingham were changing managers. Chris Hughton, who was my coach at Newcastle, was manager at Birmingham when I went on loan. Indicated that he wanted to sign me, but wasn't 100% sure where he was going to be. And he ended up, after we had that conversation, going and joining Norwich City. So I was in somewhat of a limbo. And then I got a phone call out of the blue from Dougie Friedman, who was the manager when I was at Crystal Palace for the first half of the season, saying, do you want to come down? And I went down on trial, basically, won a contract. And then first 3 games of the season, we lost and shipped in a lot of goals. And then an old teammate of mine at QPR signed Damien Delaney. And me and Damo ended up playing centre-half together. and just hit it off. And we won, I think it was the game before we had an international break of 2 weeks. We won 2-1 at home to Sheffield Wednesday, who was second bottom. And that was the catalyst for the whole season, to be honest with you. We went on a run. I think it was 16, 17 games unbeaten. We won, I think it was 12 or 13 of them allotted games, and really catapulted up the table. And then Dougie Freedman left, and Ian Holloway came in as the manager. Dougie got an offer he was too good to turn down at Bolton Wanderers. So that kind of upset the guys a little bit, because it was a group of players that were basically like myself, free transfers, players that nobody really wanted, somewhat journeymen, some of them. But we all came together, and Dougie really knitted us into a strong unit that became unbreakable, to be brutally honest with you. And we had the sprinkling of some superstar players, and Wilfred Zaha, who's still obviously at Crystal Palace, and Yannick Bolasie, who's now on loan at Sporting Lisbon in Portugal. And them two were our flair players. But then when Ian Holloway came in, he tried to unshackle the chains somewhat, but it didn't really work. But he managed to find a way of blending both his style of free-flowing football with Dougie's steel, grit and determination. And we ended up going on an incredible season, culminating in us getting promoted via the playoffs. And it was a real highlight, probably the best playing career of my career. The fact that I played the most amount of minutes, like you just stated there, I felt I was a real part of a team that got promoted. I was part of the squad that got promoted at QPR, but I spent the whole of the injury on the treatment table with an ACL injury, so missed 9 months of that whole season. So I didn't really feel part of a promotion team until then. And it was to play so many amount of minutes, play so many amount of games. I missed out on the final. I didn't start in the playoffs or at the final, which was, from a personal point of view, was real. It was a real hurting point for me. But I knew that I'd contributed massively to the season and getting us promoted, which was some sort of consolation in my eyes. And like I said, to get promoted with the guys who I still speak to this day. It's 8-9 years since we managed to do that magnificent season, and it was one that brought us all together and has kept us together.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, for you to be out there and start 39 matches and play that kind of minutes, and that's something with a lot of guys we've had on the show where we're, like you mentioned earlier, maybe if you have an injury or you come to a team partway through a year and end up winning a championship, that it's just not quite the same as if you were out there match in and match out. Although, like you said, that really has to be difficult when you figure you started 39 matches out of what I'm assuming was a 46 match season, and then not to get to start at the final there. I'm sure that was probably really difficult. And did that have a lot to do with why you chose to move on and go to Barnsley after that?
No. I had a poor performance in the game before, or in my 39th game. We played Ipswich away. I had a poor performance there and got dropped the next game. Danny Gabardon, who was a Welsh international, came in and performed magnificent. And Gabs is, to this day, still one of my best mates in football. So whilst it was a bitter pill for me to swallow and getting dropped, I didn't think I deserved to get dropped just on the back of one performance. Me and Ian Holloway had crosswords over it, and whilst I always respected his decision because he was the manager and it's his decision to make them games, and he ultimately was proved correct and dropped me and putting Gabs in, they ended up getting winning. It was tough for me, but then we went into that summer and we were now a Premier League team, and any player will tell you it's where they want to play. It's the Premier League, it's the pinnacle league for me. It's where I'd always wanted to get back to playing after leaving Newcastle. And then it came to the last day of the kind of squad announcements of 25, and Ian Holloway kind of rang me up and said I wasn't going to be part of his 25, which was another real low point in my career, because I thought again I deserved at least a place in that squad, and some of the players that were put in the squad I didn't believe deserved to be there, but again I had the respect of him. Respected his decision, and it was now a case of trying to find, within the space of sort of 12 hours, trying to find a club where I could play, because as soon as that window was shut, I wasn't going to be able to play football for 4 months. So Barnsley came calling. Barnsley is a town which was 2 hours from Newcastle. My wife had just had our second child. So from a family point of view, it was great because she could now move home and be with her family to help with the kids. So it kind of made sense to go back that way, or back up north. And Barnsley was an unbelievable club, an unbelievable experience. I spent 2 years on loan there and enjoyed my time there. It didn't work out that first year. We got relegated from the Championship, which was a real learning curve. But it was a team that, again, was similar to the Palace team. It was just built on players who were solid professionals who, what they lacked in probably the elite quality, they more than made up for in determination and endeavour. And we were just unfortunate that we picked up some key injuries over the course of that season that, contributed us to getting relegated. But, I went back the next season and we almost made the playoffs, which was no mean feat for a team like Barnsley.
Yeah, no, there was one thing that you said there that I wanted to kind of come back to in a moment, but there was also something at Barnsley that I wanted to ask you about, or actually somebody that you played with at Barnsley that we had on the show recently, and had mentioned that he played with you at Barnsley, and that would be Jordan Clark. And of course, he plays over at Accrington Stanley now. So, what was it like playing with Clicker there?
Yeah, Clicker was a young kid. He was sort of on the brink of the first team. He was coming through the youth teams into the reserves, and then training with us on a regular basis. And he was a lovely little technical midfield player, really good. Had an eye for a goal, and he had a great work rate and great attitude to him. He was kind of small and diminutive, which probably didn't help for him, in the hustle and bustle at the time that we were facing in the wrong end of the Championship, which is why maybe he didn't get his opportunity at my time there. But he was one that was, I seen that was always going to go off and have a good career, and he's done well at Accrington Stanley, and I'm sure he's going to get more opportunities at a higher level if he keeps performing. But he was just a nice kid, proper down to earth, hard working. Epitomise what is needed to become a professional footballer, and it's no surprise that it didn't work out for him at Barnsley, but it managed to find his way back into the football league and continue to play.
Yeah, he was great when he came on the show, and he's just, if I had, it's so hard for me to pick favorite players, but if I had to pick a favorite player to watch at Accrington, Jordan Clark, he's just my guy. He was player of the year last year, probably is going to be player of the year again this year, the way he's going. And his contract, it's up with Accrington on June 30th, so we expect he's probably going to explore the championship next year. And he hasn't gotten it yet, but I did send him over a Phoenix Rising hat, so he's going to be we're in a Phoenix Rising hat over there. But one thing I wanted to kind of go back to is what you were saying earlier, is how Barnsley gave you a chance to move up north. And that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about that we've talked to a lot of guys about, is I noticed that, of course, you came from the Newcastle area. And then after that, most of the teams that you played with were more in the London area. What was it like, kind of the differences between playing up north and playing playing down south?
In terms of, I've kind of followed traditional and played for traditional football clubs. I left Newcastle and went to QPR, very old-fashioned, very traditional. Went to Crystal Palace, very traditional football club. Birmingham, traditional. Barnsley, traditional. None of them were the real difference in terms of north-south divide, so to speak. It was more the culture of the area that you were in. Newcastle, very hard-working. Barnsley, very hard-working industrial cities where you go to London and it's all hustle, bustle, cosmopolitan. Like Jay-Z said, it's a concrete city. It just seems to be one skyscraper after another. And I mean, I was a northern boy when I left Newcastle. It was the first time I'd ever kind of been south of the River Tyne, to be honest with you, other than to play football. So to move to London was a real hard life experience for me. I didn't settle in London very well to start with. QPR was a club which there was a lot going on within it, and then there was a lot going on outside of it for me. So it was hard to stay focused. But Damo Delaney, a guy I just mentioned before at Crystal Palace, our relationship started when I was at QPR, and he was a big person for me to help me settle into London way of life. The guys who were at the football club at the time at QPR were all, again, good, honest pros. Martin Rowlands, Lee Cook, Gavin Martin, Damo Delaney, players who had experienced football at all levels of the English game and all over the country. So I slowly made that adjustment in my personal life, managed to move into a flat, and then the football kind of took care of itself thereafter. We had a lot of changes in coming and going at QPR at that kind of 3-year period, and I played a lot of games, got injured at a crucial time, which made me miss out on the promotion. But it didn't, to answer your question, there wasn't really that much of a change.
Well, one of the reasons that I did ask you that is because as a show that, we primarily interview folks from Accrington, Stanley, and, we end up talking to guys from Liverpool and in Manchester, and that occasionally we'll get somebody on from London, but I'm going to do an abbreviated section of this, and then I'm going to kind of turn things over to Matt so he can ask about things here in the desert. But we have a section of the show, it's called Rapid Fire, that's kind of inspired by North versus South England stuff. So we have a few what are called rapid fire questions for you. The first one is, do you prefer mushy peas or garden peas?
Oh, mushy peas.
Red sauce or brown sauce on your bacon buddy?
See, I'm a brown.
Yeah, brown sauce. All right. And then Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Rolling Stones.
Oh, that's one of our first Rolling Stones. I think you're the second one to say Rolling Stones. Okay. Oasis or Blur?
Oasis.
All right, Oasis. And then we have Coronation Street or EastEnders. I've never seen either of them.
I used to watch, but my granny was Coronation Street. But so I'll stick with that, Coronation Street.
All right, and then we have one that's a North American question, and you'll actually be the first person who can kind of identify that this really is a thing here. So we've been asking folks in England if they would try jalapeno peppers on their pepperoni pizza, because that's a big popular thing here, and that's a good thing, and we really do eat that here, don't we?
Yeah, you do. I like a bit of jalapenos on my pizza. I'm not going to lie. I like something that's got a little bit of a kick to it. We cook pizzas and that with the kids, and I've always got something that keeps it a little bit hot.
Oh, yeah. And it's the Phoenix Rising games, they've got that Venetia's pizza. You can't beat that. All right. Well, we have one question that we wanted to ask you about before you came to Phoenix. I'm going to hand over to Matt. And then that question, before you came to Phoenix, you did leave England and take a trip all the way to the Indian Super League. So that had to be some kind of a different change of experience from anywhere in England. So what was it like playing in India for that year?
Yeah, that was certainly one hell of an experience. You know what it is? It came about Peter Taylor, who was an ex-England under-21s manager, managed the first team. Actually made David Beckham the England captain. And Peter Taylor is a hugely respected coach in England. And he called me up in the summer and said he was taking over at a team called Kerala Blasters. And I'm like, well, where's that? Not a clue where it was. And he said India. And I thought, I wasn't 100% sure. But he sold me on the league. He sold me on the team. He sold me on the life experience that I'm gonna embark on. And I'll be honest with you, it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my career was to go out there for 4 or 5 months. And I loved it. Loved every minute of it. From the minute I touched down in Kochi, right in the southern part of India, to the moment that I left, it was really humbling. From a life experience to venture into India and see the different cities and the different culture and lifestyle and way of life of that part of the world. And the football was impressive. I'm not going to lie. I underestimated how good the league really is. I underestimated how good the local Indian players are. And they had some absolute superstars from abroad there as well playing. We had Lucio, the Brazilian centre-half. They had Nicolas Anelka was there. Roberto Carlos was player-manager. John Arnorisa, the left-back, used to be at Liverpool, was there. They had an array of absolute world-class stars that were littering the league, that was making it a really, really competitive league. I mean, we suffered from some internal politics on the board side of things, which hampered us. There was a lot of, how could I say this politically? There was a lot of interference with Peter and the board, and Peter left, only maybe 2 months into it because of that, and we lost our way because of that. So it was tough. We finished bottom, but we had a squad that was more than capable of challenging, and we should have done better. But like I said, there was a lot of internal politics that was going on within the football club that hampered us, but it didn't dampen my experience. Like I said, I absolutely loved the culture, the people, the way of life, the football, everything about India made it probably one of the best decisions I made in my career to go out and experience that.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
It's interesting.
And then you went back to England for a couple of years.
Couple of months,
and then you found your way out to the desert, man. How did that come about? How did what was that like? How was the recruitment process? What was said to you that said, you know what, I'll move halfway around the world and this little startup team in the desert?
Well, it was funny because I was actually I was about to jump in the car and go to Blackpool on trial, and I got a phone call from Mark Bircham, who was the assistant manager to Frank Yallop in 2016. And I worked with Birch at QPR, and he just rang and he said, I'm assistant manager out here at Phoenix. All right, Birch, where's that? Not a clue. He said, it's in America. I was like, okay, right. Where's Phoenix? And I didn't have a clue. Geography was never my strongest point. I could point to where New York and LA and Miami was, and that was about it. Any other city in the US, and I was struggling to mark where it was. But he said, just come out. Explained what the league that we're in, obviously tier below the MLS. Explained that there was a new ownership group coming in for 2017, and he wanted me out early so I could experience what the city was like. Get kind of acclimatized to the weather, that there was going to be something special starting here. So I thought, you know what it is, why not? So I jumped on the next day I jumped on a plane, came out for 10 days and ended up staying for almost 18 months. And it was, I'm still here now. We're talking here in my front garden of my place here in Scottsdale. And the moment I touched down, it was early evening and it was still 100 degrees, and I'd jumped off the plane in a tracksuit, hoodie, hat. I didn't know what to experience. Birch told me it was going to be hot, and I just didn't expect it to be hot. But it was tough that first 6 months because we were kind of changing out of a couple of apartment blocks next to the TPC. Obviously we're playing all the way out in Peoria with not many fans there, but I'd met Burke, I'd met Brett Johnson, I met Mark Detmer. Frank told me a lot about the players that he was looking to bring in, about we were going to really have a go in 2017, and wanted me to be a huge part of it. And, as soon as I spent a night with Frank talking about it, I was like, I had my heart set on staying here and trying to make this a long-term, or be part of this long-term project. And again, similar to the India experience, came into kind of the unknown, not really knowing what was going to happen. And again, it's turned out to be one of the best decisions I'd made in my career.
Yeah, man, it's been fun to watch, from 2017 and the rebrand. and then just the players that were brought in. I still remember going to those games at what's now Casino Arizona Field, and you and Jordan Stewart kind of just anchor in the back there, and then Sean Wright Phillips and Drogba. I mean, it was just so much fun to watch, and it really felt like, like you said, there was something special happening. And eventually, you played out your career here. You retired. What was that process like? What made you decide it was time to hang up the boots?
The decision was somewhat taken out of me. I was devastated when I got told my contract wasn't getting renewed. I wanted one more year, and I would have loved it out here in the desert. But I respected what Patrice was saying, the direction that the club was wanting to go down. Like you said, I think me, Didier, Jordan, and Sean had a combined age of most of the second teams, like all put together. The four of us were really hitting the back end of our careers. So I was devastated, but I went back, and coaching was always something I was going to do. It was always something that I'd earmarked for my next stage of my career. And I think no sooner had I found out that I was going to be, no longer being at Phoenix, that the phone call came from Newcastle United to see if I wanted to join the coaching staff at the academy. And I kind of hummed and hawed for a week as to whether I wanted to continue or not. I had a lot of soul searching with a wife, because she, at this time in 2017, she was back home. She wasn't out here in Phoenix with me. So I wanted to make a decision that was going to be right for her as well as myself. And I had a couple of opportunities to stay back out here in America, but again, it was just going to be another year, and the wife and kids weren't going to do that for a year. So the decision was kind of made. I took Newcastle up on their opportunity to join the coaching staff at the academy, hung the boots up, and began the next stage of my career, which was something that was made with a lot of sadness, if I'm honest with you. I didn't really, like I said, I still felt that I had at least another year, if not 2 or 3, left in me, but I just didn't want to be spending it out of a suitcase and
right.
going year from year, trying to win a 1-year contracts after another year contract. So I just thought the time was right for me to retire and begin the next phase.
Right. So you had always planned on going into coaching then, as you said.
Yeah, I'd done my badges when I was still playing. I began my B license when I was 24. Got my A license by the time I was 29. When I was at Barnsley, I got my A license. So coaching was always something that I was going to do. The years that I was at Barnsley, I was involved in the youth teams with them, coaching on a night time. And I had a real passion for it, and I was getting a real love for it. And even when I was out here with Phoenix, I was, taking notes from Patrice, always speaking to him, speaking to Rick, asking for their advice, asking maybe a couple of tactical, why did you do this? Why did you do that? What did you see in this? What did you see in that? I had a real thirst for it. I have got a lot of contacts in England, which I was, dipping into. And then one of the two of the big influences in my coaching career, a coach called Ben Dawson, who was the assistant to the legend that is Peter Beardsley, Newcastle legend. He was the manager of the under-23s at Newcastle, and Pete and Ben were the first two, like I said on the phone when I found out that I wasn't going to be offered a contract, wanted me to come in and start coaching, and they were great. And 2 mentors of mine, even to this day, that I just worked the opportunity to work with them at the football club that I began my career at, for the chance for me to be home with my wife and kids. It was an opportunity, like I said, that I thought it was time to hang them up and go into the other side of the fence.
Right on, man. So what was it like then when, you're at Newcastle, you're coaching, I'm assuming, one of the youth teams?
Yeah, I was under 13s. I had the under 13s, and I was working with Pete and Ben at the 23s.
Right on. And then, eventually you get a phone call, I'm assuming from Rick, and he said, what does he say to you? Are you following kind of what's going on in Phoenix through this time at Newcastle, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching all the games. I was getting up. The games were on, around about midnight. So I had a couple of beers in hand, and match of the day had finished in England, and I was flicking on to Phoenix Rising games. So I'd been watching the guys. I'd been speaking. Obviously Blair had transitioned at the end of that year from playing and going into the coaching staff, being Patrice assistant along with Rick, and I was speaking to Rick regularly. Mustafa Dumbai had gone out for a trial prior to joining, last season. He was out there in, I think, the beginning of 2018, on the kind of the back of the recommendation of myself. So we were in contact about players, and there were two good guys. You know, Blair, Patrice, and Rick had obviously formed their coach, or Patrice had got Blair on the coaching staff, but I kept in touch with Patrice, and I was watching the games, and obviously Patrice went off to another adventure, and you know, Rick kind of rang me up. It was about 2:00 in the morning. I don't think he quite got the concept of time difference. I was lying there, and my phone was buzzing away, and I looked, and it was Rick, and I answered it and said, "Listen, I'm going to get the job till the end of the season. I need some help. Do you want to come back out?" And it was a tough decision to make for me. But at the time, I was only part-time at Newcastle. I wasn't at full-time employment, and there wasn't an opportunity for me to go into full-time with Newcastle, which would have probably been the only way that I would have made the decision not to come back out. But you know, I spoke to Pete and Ben, and they encouraged me to take this opportunity, and it's one that I'm glad that I made.
That's awesome, man. How was your wife feeling at that time? You know,
she was like,
just come back.
For 10 years, I've been following you all around the country. I've finally got you home, and now you're, you know, going off back to the other side of the world. But you know, she came out a couple of times with the kids, and she enjoyed Phoenix. For her, it was an opportunity as well that she recognised that I couldn't turn down. There was a moment where she was humming and hawing. You know, when she first came out here, she struggled to readjust with the kids, because I was getting up and I was going to work and spending most of the days in the office trying to plan and prepare for games. But she was an absolute rock for me. You know, the kids got into school. So they're in Cochise Elementary and love it. And you know, it was a trial. You know, the end of the kind of 2018 season, the second half of it was to see if this was going to be right for us as a family. And you know, that was the kind of the test for us as well, because I didn't know beyond 2018 whether Rick was going to get the job or not,
right?
Whether I was going to get offered another permanent role here or not. So we kind of took a plunge into the unknown. It was a 3-4 month sort of period where this could work or this could not. But you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. We obviously went on to the Western Conference final, get to the final of the US Championship final. Didier's last game. Obviously, Rick by then had been told that he was going to have a contract. It was just an opportunity that, in the end, we thought, nah, why not? We've got to do it. As a family, we love it here. The kids are in school. That's the kids messing on FaceTime there. That's they've got. You know, while they can't play with all their friends, they're all on this FaceTime and things like that. So we love it now out here, and we're settled. We see ourselves, our long-term future here for as long as the football club want to.
That's great, man. Well, we love having you here. So kind of looking at your position now, what is your primary role on this coaching staff? I know from like what we see in the stands, you usually are warming up the defense, the back four, and usually a couple of the midfielders. That's balls, but
yeah, throw a couple of balls in the air, make them head it, make them kick it. You know, make sure it stops them going. It's a role. There's Rick heads a lot of it. Then you know, myself, Blaine, and Corey are as assistants. You know, obviously Corey primarily works with the goalkeepers, with the slappies, as I like to know to name them. But you know, myself and Blaine and Corey do a lot of the planning and preparing of sessions on a daily basis. You know, we're scouting the opposition. You know, Steve Cook's on board now, obviously, as head of player development too, and the kind of bridge between the youth and the first team. But he does a hell of a lot of work for us in supporting myself and Blair, because at the end of the day, we're still young in our coaching careers. So to not only have Rick as the head coach, you know, experienced person, but also Cookie, somebody who's worked at the highest level in the MLS, is fantastic for us. But you know, myself and Blair, we, like I said, we plan, prepare the guys, get them ready from basically as soon as the referee blows full time on a Saturday. We have them beginning their preparations for the next game. I said, scouting the opposition, making sure that they're tactically aware of what they're going to face, technically aware by, you know, putting individual sessions. You know, you reference the defenders there. You know, I obviously primarily work on a unit based individually with the defenders, Blair with kind of the midfielders and forwards. But we do a hell of a lot. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. You know, obviously you've got to try and recruit the players as well. You know, Bobby Dooley, the GM's heavily involved in that and does an unbelievable job in making sure that he gets the players that we tell him to get. So dealing with agents as well. So we don't. There's the 4 of us or 5 of us, including Cookie and Bobby's obviously heavily involved with us as well. That kind of do all the technical side of things, and we don't have video analysis that some of the top teams in the MLS do. We do it all our cutting and editing ourselves. So learning to use a computer and a laptop and working on that, it took me a while, hell of a while, to be honest with you. Blair's an absolute whiz and a master at that, but we complement each other really well. And like I said, the contacts that Rick and Cookie in particular have, that if we have an issue with anything, they can pick up the phone and speak to Peter Ramage at Sporting Kansas City, or Bob Bradley at LAFC, or Greg Vanny at Toronto. These guys are well connected, and it helps when all these guys come into Phoenix over the course of pre-season, that we can build our own relationships and get to know the guys and find out how and what works at the top level. And it's so far so good. We've had a successful couple of years, and I think we've got better each year. I'm really excited for the season to get back going with the group of players that we've assembled this off season. And you've seen a glimmer of it against Portland, the first game of the season, and we still have a lot of work to do. Even though we managed to win that game 6-1, there was a lot of stuff that needs worked upon, and hopefully we can get back sooner rather than later to kicking a ball in anger.
That's awesome, man. So I just got to ask, when you're scouting the Las Vegas Lights, is it hard to stay focused on what's happening on the field? Are you getting distracted by everything, all the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men? I
know, I'm not going to lie. It was the first time I've ever, that and when we went to Austin, but it was the first time I've experienced walking out to llamas on the field. And then, I think our guys asked to do the halftime team talk on the pitch, and was like, well, why? And then we see a helicopter spiraling around the field, and there's dollar bills getting thrown on the pitch and everything. It was, Vegas is, hey, listen, fair play to them. They found something that works for them. They're a tough team. Last season, they were a real tough team. You either go and they will get spanked 4-0 like we did at home, or, we grounded out a real tough 1-0 win away with Adam John getting that win. And Vegas was a tough team, and they're managed by, an MLS great, and Eric Wijnaldum, who's, found a way of. Eric Avila was obviously there last season, the season before last. And he obviously gave us an insight as to what it's like. And listen, Vegas, they're obviously the butt of all the USL jokes, but, we don't take them lightly. They're a good team, and they've got an organisation there who know what it takes to get bums on seats, and
there you go.
Play them for that.
So you did mention that farm animal game in Austin, and I do have to shamelessly self-promote that we did do a farm animal episode after that. So I'll send you a link to it. To me, that. Some of the things that Vegas does, it's just like the kind of stuff you would see in minor league baseball. But that farm animal thing, to me, that was just the silliest promotion that I've ever heard of, ever.
Well, I know we walked out afterwards, and there was llamas, donkeys, horses, pigs. There was all sorts. I mean, we just got beat 1-0 in the game, and I remember Rick saying that he walked out of the stadium, and the first thing he seen was all these farm animals, and he was fuming after that result. And then he was just stood, head in hands, and he'll tell you himself. He just thought, what do I do? How do I take this result? And it was, but again, listen, I mean, we have the infamous, or famous, sorry, I should say, dollar beer night, where
right.
After a few beers, there's quite a few animals that are in the stadium. It brings out the best and worst of some of the fans. Which
I'm a South End guy myself. Matt sits in a little bit more civilized area at the stadium, but yeah, in the South End, I'm pretty sure that some of us down there have had. More than they say that you should, but it's a lot of fun. And so, just get to yell at the goalkeeper, and think that we're getting get the team some extra home field advantage. I just love it. And, that I'll tell you, the one thing with everything that's going on right now, the one thing that I miss the very most is just that camaraderie of being down there with all of the supporters. And, I'm not in either group because I have so many friends in both, but, just hanging out with the Red Fury and the Banditos and, causing a ruckus and getting the other team off their game, that's just something that I miss more than anything, and I can't wait to get back to it.
Yeah, and us too. We talked about it the other day. It's been one of the strangest time of my life to ever experience something that we're going through now, and I just can't wait till it's all over and we can be walking out in front of the fans, scoring goals in the red smokes, clouding the skyline of the Casino Arizona Field Stadium. It's just something that we miss as a staff and as players. We miss running out and trying to entertain you guys. And like I said, hopefully we can find a way of sometime soon being safe in a safe environment where we can do that again. Right.
Yeah. One final question for you, Peter, and then we'll let you go. You've been awesome with us today, and we really appreciate it. We've talked about it. Everyone knows what's going on. We're in the middle of this pandemic. Everything seems to be on hold right now. But everything we've heard kind of from the USL is that they're still expecting every game to be played this season. And so obviously that's going to mean some sort of congested schedule, maybe, multiple games a week. How are you guys as a coaching staff preparing the players for this schedule coming up? The fact that we're going to be congested.
The guys have been brilliant in these last couple of weeks. They've been brilliant in terms of keeping Steve Fell and Brennan Hodge, the medical side of things, have been really keeping on top of the guys to make sure that when we do come back that they're going to be ready to go. They've had their own daily fitness programs that have been working to, and each of the guys have been unbelievable in keeping fit. And I think that they recognise it. They have to do so because there is going to be a congestion fixture. That's what we're kind of you referenced it there. That's kind of what we've been told is how it's going to happen at this moment in time. So we're going to have Saturday, Tuesday, or Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Friday, Wednesday, whatever. It's all going to be clustered into kind of a mini season or a season within a mini season. So the players are all ready and they're going to be ready. We're going to hopefully be back in the coming weeks to have small group training similar to what's been happening in Germany and back across Europe with Spain. And the guys will be physically ready. Like I said, Steve Fell and Brennan have worked tirelessly over this moment in time to get them in a position that when they come back, we can literally blast them to make sure they're going to be ready to go. And again, it comes back down to the recruitment process that we did over the course of the off season. That we planned obviously for a whole season, but the numbers that we have got, we've got a really, really strong squad, probably the strongest that I've come across. We've got 2 players in every position who, at any given Sunday to quote the movie, can come in and do a job. And equally, each player in each position is as a starter in their own right. There's going to be nobody's going to play every minute of every game. It's just going to be physically and mentally impossible. So the squad's going to be ready to play at a drop of a hat, and that comes to like I said, myself, Blair, making sure that they're ready on the training pitch. Rick making sure that he puts out the team that's going to be able to win and win every game. That's what we're gonna look to go. And I think it was Joey Calistri made a great point the other day when we're on the calls with the players. It was something that he said that really resonated with us, that this season's probably going to have an asterisk next to it. Whoever's going to win it's going to have an asterisk. Well, why not have Phoenix Rising next to it? Whether it be the Western Conference, however they do it, whoever wins is going to be an asterisk. Well, we're going to make damn sure that it's going to be try and be Phoenix Rising that's going to have that asterisk next to the winners. And however it's going to go, we're all going to be making sure that these players are ready. And I know for a fact that they're hungry to get on the field. They're like caged animals at the minute, and we're all caged animals. We're all, we live and breathe to be on the grass, and that's where they want to be. And I know that when the time comes, it'll be, we'll uncage them and let them go wild.
Awesome, man. I just thought of one more question, if that's all right with you.
Of course, as long as you want.
So which would you rather happen first? Newcastle wins the Premier League or Phoenix Rising wins USL Cup?
Oh, where's that phone call when I need it? Where's my kids trying to get it?
No, you don't have to answer that, man. You don't have to answer that.
I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, to be part of Phoenix. I mean, we've won the Western Conference. You know, we won the regular season. You know, Phoenix has had they've raised a trophy. I've waited my lifetime for Newcastle to win the Premier League. You know,
go.
With everything that's going on, just give me that one moment for Newcastle. We can end 60 years of absolute torture, hurt, and pain. But you know, I love winning trophies. I want to win a trophy as part of as much as anybody. So for me, it would be, you know, I can wait as long as I've waited 60. Well, I've waited my whole lifetime for Newcastle to raise a trophy in terms of a major to run. But Phoenix can win the major one this year, next year, whenever we're going to get back. It would definitely be Phoenix and get my hands on a trophy for them.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Peter.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
You know, just all the best to you and your family during this time. I hope you guys are staying healthy, and we can't wait to see you at Casino Arizona Field soon.
I appreciate that.
Oh, Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really, really appreciate you coming on. But before we wrap up, I do have one thing that was sent in by our English correspondent, Darren Woodhead. And I don't really understand this. So Darren, he's from Accrington, but I guess he visits Whitley Bay at least once a year. And he said that I'm supposed to ask you about Spanish City.
Spanish City. Oh, I knew this when he started going off. Yeah, it's a little. So the Spanish City. When we first moved down to Whitley Bay, it was kind of somewhat of kids amusement park. So. You know, somewhat you see in like a casino. You know, there was a lot of slot machines, kids kind of games, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
And it had bumper car rides, it had the Ferris wheels, it had dodgems, it had everything. It was unbelievable, and it's literally right on the beach. But then it
like kind of Coney Island, maybe.
Yeah, you know, a minute Disneyland. You know, it was kind of had everything. But it closed down. It kind of got a little bit derelict, a little bit worn. It'd been there for not centuries, but decades, and it's been rejuvenated over the last probably 5 to 10 years. It took a lot of government funding to reinvent itself as a kind of a restaurant place. There's now schools, kids' schools there. There's a little water park that's not far from it, so it's taken a huge renovation, and it's the kind of the hub of the town. Beautiful that it's literally. I mean, you overlook the North Sea, and in the summer's day, there's fish and chip shops on the beach. There's ice cream parlors on the beach, and it all kind of stems from the Spanish City, which is a focal point of the town, and one which, you know, when I go back in the December, it's probably going to be minus degrees, but when you always end up venturing down and trying to get an ice cream, like I said, the ice cream doesn't melt, certainly not in that time, but in the summer it's a beautiful. And when we were kids, we used to love going down there and spending our parents' pocket money or parents' money and having fun and enjoying times by the seaside.
That's cool.
That's great stuff, and great to hear that they've renovated it and they got things going again. Well, Peter, thank you so much, and
thank you guys.
Hopefully we can do this again sometime, and next time do it, it'll be about talking about the recent matches that you guys have, you know, won 21 in a row next time, you know?
No, we're going to go through the whole season, you know. Rick's got this plan, he's got this vision and dream, as we all do, that we're going to go through the whole season, so
I'd love to see that. Love to see that.
Brilliant, guys. Well, thanks very much for having me on.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You Cheers. Too. Stay safe.